Welcome to this tutorial where we're going to be demonstrating the production of a concrete block in 3D. Here on screen I have already copied the profile of the block into AutoCAD, making it easier for us to access the file for reproduction. This will prevent me having to switch back and forth from screen to screen. And so in this tutorial, like I said, I am going to be demonstrating the production of the concrete block from the top face as shown here. I am also going to be demonstrating the production of three basic stiffener details. For example, our L stiffener, our I stiffener, and our T stiffener. Details that we're going to be needing for any typical building. Plus, in this tutorial, I am also going to be demonstrating the use of these stiffeners as well as our concrete block that we are going to be producing. We're going to be modeling these objects within a concrete wall, block wall that we are going to be constructing. And so let us move into the production of this file. Now notice that since what we're looking at is the top profile or the top features of the concrete block, so it is important that on our AutoCAD interface we are actually producing that on our top face, because that's actually what we are looking at. And so I'm going to be producing this object by starting by drawing this horizontal line we have at the top and this vertical line we have to the left. And so to draw that, I'm going to be selecting my line command, ensuring that I am in my ortho mode. My ortho mode is on. I'm going to be drawing that horizontal line as well as a vertical line to represent that left edge. What is required from here on are just going to be some series of offsets. For example, to get these vertical edges, we're going to be offsetting the required distances. And so I'm going to be starting my first offset with 25 as indicated. And it's going to be 25 from this line, moving in this direction. And again, another 25. Then we have a 137. So let's offset that 137 in that direction. Then we have a 26. Let's offset our 26, same direction. Another 137. We also offset that. Then we have 25 and another 25 in the same direction. Now I have offsetted pretty much all of my vertical lines to be used in the production of my diagram. Now let us get our horizontal line. We already have our first one, so let us do offset of 25 from this line, moving down. Let's switch to 100. We're moving down. And one final 25 millimeters. That will end our vertical offset. Let us now trim. Select trim, and then select everything. All of your lines, enter. So it makes it easier for us to remove unwanted lines in one sweeping action, as opposed to selecting on each line individually. We can just basically click in the space and sweep over the lines, being careful not to touch lines that you don't want to remove. Let me now also remove these pieces. My mouse is moving a little lethargic. Let me get something better on which to operate. Alright, that's better. So now I am trimming out the unwanted pieces as per our display. Let us take a look. Now we also realize that at this end there is to be a small indentation. Now it is given as 37 from both sides. Let us go offset 37 millimeters, and we are pretty much going to be offsetting from this line in this direction and from this line upwards. Now we have our two lines. There is also to be an offset of 12, and that is measured from this line going in this direction. Notice that our lines need to intersect or to connect. So let us do extend, and extend to touch this line, enter, and we are extending basically these two lines. We can now trim, enter, so we can now click on all lines we would want removed. So I have now removed all unwanted lines. It is also observed that some corners are basically filleted. They have a curved feature. It is said here that all fillets have radii of 13. Now from our command, from our modified toolbar, we select our fillet command. From our command line, we click on radius, or we could have typed R, enter. So let's just click radius. When prompted to give the radius of your fillet, we will remember that's 13, enter. And since we have pretty much a lot of corners to fillet, let us select multiple or type M, enter. We're now going to be selecting the lines that forms the corners to be filleted. All right, so let's go quickly here, selecting the two lines that forms the corner. My pick box is a little small, hence I'm moving a little bit slow, but I'm getting there. And finally, these two, you should be moving a lot faster as practice, increases. Now, but what you will notice is that currently my block, or the features of my block, is still pretty much in single lines. Let us select our entire object and let us do a J, enter, for our object to be joined. So I have given my join command. I test, I realize that some parts are still not joined. So let's go again, select and say join, enter. Let's test one last time. So now we have the profile of a complete block on screen. Now, to be used in the production, in the construction of the wall, we're also going to be needing not just completed blocks, but also half blocks. Allow us to just make 2 copies. So let us select copy, select the entire block as we wish to copy, and give 2 copies. 1. Notice I'm ensuring that my ortho mode is on, thereby allowing my blocks to be copied in a straight line. It's important for what I want to achieve. Now, for 2 of these blocks, we're going to be cutting them and only taking alternate halves. So let us basically draw a line splitting this block across the middle. Let us also draw another line splitting this block. So we want a complete block as well as alternate halves. We are now going to be trimming, selecting your cutting lines like this one and this one, give enter, and then you're going to remove alternate halves. So we remove that half, and for this one, let us get rid of this half. Now, the circles are left behind. We can go ahead and delete those circles. Let us now give join command for the pieces to be rejoined. Test for join, that one's fine. Likewise, this one has been joined. It's a good idea to keep your work area pretty much neat. So I'm just going to be moving these 2 pieces pretty much in line, keeping things in an organized way. Now, so that completes our block, our complete block, as well as we have 2 halves, as will be required in the construction of any typical wall. All right, it's extremely difficult, almost impossible, to find a wall that will be constructed merely by using complete blocks. All right, so we have our blocks. The next thing, as discussed, we're going to be looking at are the productions of our 3 stiffener details. Now I'm going to begin, well, allow me to just get rid of the model of this block for clarity or for space. No need to have that around anymore. We're now going to be demonstrating the construction of our 3 typical stiffener details. You would already be aware of the dimensions of our stiffeners, but let me remind that our L stiffener, I'm going to be using our line command, that our L stiffener is 300 millimeters in one direction. So let's type 300. It is 300 in the other direction as well. But each branch is now going to be 150 millimeters. 150 millimeters in that direction. 150 upwards again until we have our closed traverse, 150 millimeters. We should be able to produce an L stiffener profile with relative ease. Let us now talk about our I stiffener. Now the I stiffener could be easily be produced using the rectangle feature, but I'm still going to be using our lines just for practice sake. So I'm going to be starting by giving our length of our L stiffener, which is 300 millimeters, which is 150 millimeters wide, 6 inches. It is 300 millimeters in length, 1 foot, and again 6 inches, 150 millimeters. Enter. Now we have produced 2 profiles, or profiles of 2 stiffeners. Now to make our T stiffener, again we're using lines. I'm going to be starting perhaps here. Now the broadest side of our T stiffener will be 450 millimeters. We'll see why. Then we're going 150 millimeters, then 150 millimeters left, 150 up, 150 left, 150 down, 150 left, and our final 150 down. And again, that would have completed the profile of our 3 basic or typical stiffener details. All right? Now, our stiffeners are not complete because there still has to be some amount of reinforcement displayed in our stiffener details. Now, these reinforcements are going to be in the forms of vertical bars as well as our links to tie these vertical bars. So, in other words, to keep these vertical bars in a stable position. All right. Otherwise, the vertical bars would have been all flimsy and all of that. So, in order to keep them stable, there are what are known as links that are going to be used to tie these things together. So, let us go ahead and install or insert our links in our first stiffener, our L stiffener. Now, our steelwork in our stiffener is required by code, is required to have minimum 1 inch of concrete coverage, meaning our steel bars are going to be no less than 1 inch inside our concrete, 1 inch in, away from the edges. That will prevent moisture from getting to our steel bars should our columns get wet. So let us go offset and give offset distance of 1 inch, which is approximately 25 millimeters, and pretty much offset these 4 sides in, because an L stiffener is comprised of 2 eye stiffeners. Yes, that's basically it. 2 eyes turned in opposite direction, and that would have formed our L stiffener. By virtue of the steels being bent, then the corners of our links are required to have curves of radius 13. 13 happens to be the size of our steel bar, and so I'm going to be giving fillet with radius, so select radius from your command area. In my case, 13 is already default, so I'm going to give enter to accept 13. And since I'm going to be joining 4 corners, let's also select multiple. Then go ahead and select the lines that forms your corners. So I'm going to be selecting those 2, these 2, these 2, and these 2. Now what do I have? I have my first link being created, or the profile of my first link being completed. Let me go ahead and join my object. So let's select everything, give J, enter, just to test that my link has been connected, and also that my stiffener is connected. Well, now let me go ahead and isolate or hide this stiffener, giving me clearance or clarity to prepare my other stirrup. So let me select this stirrup, right click on your screen, go to isolate object and say let us hide. Isolate and say hide that object. Why have I done that? It's just so as to have our space clear, so I can now produce my other stirrup. I should not have joined my shell, so let me go ahead and explode that shell, because I really should not have joined it, so that I can now offset my 25 from this line inwards, this line in, and finally this line in. Why I didn't want it joined is because when I offset, I would have gotten that entire shape offsetted inwards, and I really don't need the entire shape. All I need is just this portion of our stirrup. Like our first stirrup, let us fillet our corners of radius 13, and let us also do that in the multiple. So I'm going to be selecting these 2 lines that forms my intersection, these 2 lines, these 2, as well as these 2 that are supposed to be joined. At this stage, we can now bring back. So let us go isolate and end our isolation. Now we realize that we have both stiffeners have now returned. Let us now go and give our join command, J, enter, to realize that we have our complete link and another complete link. Also, my profile is also linked or joined. Not complete, but we'll come back to that. Let us move over and do likewise for our eye stiffener. So we're going to be installing stirrups, or a stirrup, a link in our eye stiffener. No need to recreate, because we already have such a profile in this one. What I'm going to basically do is to copy this one since it's in the same position, I'm going to grab it at this point and I'm going to move to this point. Now I have my I stiffener also with link. If we also observe in our T stiffener for this portion here, we could easily copy this stirrup for use there. Let us go ahead and give copy. Select this stirrup. For displacement point, I'm going to be holding here and I'm going to be pasting it at this one. Now I have one stirrup in my T stiffener. Allow me to go ahead again and hide this one. So let's select it, right click on screen, isolate, hide it. Thereby giving clearance or clarity to produce our final stirrup. Let us do offset again of 25, enter. But this time all we need is this line in, this line in, this line in, and one of these two sides. No need for both. One side in. Now we go fillet, again in the multiple style, and I'm basically going to be joining or filleting this corner here, this one here, this one over here, and this one here. All right, let us bring back the one we had just hidden. So let us right click, isolate object, and end the isolation. Now we have our 3 stiffeners complete with stirrups or links, and these links are 1 inch in from the edge of our concrete. Select everything and just go join again, just to ensure that everything is now as we would want them to be. All entities have now been joined. Yes. Now what is missing in our stirrups, in our stiffeners? Our vertical bars are still missing. Now, how do we know where in a stiffener a vertical bar is to be placed? Vertical bars are placed pretty much wherever there is a curve. Now, what size vertical bars are we going to be using in the construction of our wall? We're going to be using the typical 1/2 inch rebars. So from our circle command, I'm going to be selecting circle, and I'm going to be using our diameter method. So let's select that option. The center for your steel bars are pretty much going to be the center of your curves. However, the center points will not be visible until you hover across the curves. Once you find a center point, just click on that and give the diameter to be 13, representing our 1/2 inch, enter. There I have my first bar being placed in our stiffener. I'm going to give copy, ensuring that I hold this bar at the center, because I need to be pasting it at the other centers. So I hover across and I paste. Other curve, hover, paste, hover, paste. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly paste in my vertical bars. My T-stiffener would have now been complete. Let's move to our eye and continue to copy our bars at the center of the curves. Remember, you have to hover across the curve for the center to be shown. So I'm going ahead and I'm placing my vertical bars. Some persons have issues knowing at what corners bars are supposed to be placed, but I'm hoping that that has now been made clear, at what corners do we need. Now I have installed all my bars, and so we would now realize that our L stiffener typically boasts 7 vertical bars, our I stiffener has 4, and our T stiffener has 2, 4, 6, 8 bars in there. Now, our vertical bars, the shape of it is already seen here. They're going to be cylindrical bars. Likewise, our stirrups are going to be cylindrical objects, but right now they're just lines. We're going to be drawing a circle of diameter 10 anywhere close by to this stirrup. So let's go circle, diameter 10, enter. Circle 4, circle 4. It's pretty much to give features to our stirrup. We want for our stirrup to be cylindrical as well, because it's going to be made from 10mm steel. And so I have drawn a circle here that will be used to give features to our stirrup. We're going to be observing that shortly. Notice, however, that the L stiffener has 2 sets of stirrups, and so we will need 2 circles just for our L stiffener. So let's have 2 for that. For our I stiffener, there is only 1 set of stirrup, so let's put that in. And for our T stiffener, there are basically 2 sets of stirrups. Let's have 2 circles. We want those circles because we're going to be sweeping them onto our stirrups. And that's why we basically have 2 for this one, 1 for this one, and again 2 for this one. Because once you sweep the circle, you would have lost the circle, and so you would have needed another circle for our other stirrup. Now, let us go and take a look at what we have done from a 3D perspective. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to split my screen into 2 vertical areas, such that on my right side we can now be observing in a 3D way. So allow us to switch our right side of screen into a 3D mode, and I'm going to be using our southwest isometric view. Let us zoom that into view. Perhaps if I had the right side of my screen set in another color, we would be able to observe what's happening a little clearer. So allow me to go and change. Let's go options, and I'm just going to be changing the 3D side so that my display, my background, is not really black. I'm going to be switching my 3D side, and I think I want my 3D side perhaps in that color. So let me apply that. I hope it's not too green, and let's say apply that, and let's get back out here now. Why have I done that? Such that when I switch into perhaps a shady with edges, we would have seen a different color. All right, so let's view back in our wireframe. Now here's what we're going to be doing. The blocks, or the profiles of the blocks we had made, all we had for those were just the profiles. Now we're going to give or convert these into being 3D objects by simple giving heights to our features. For that, we're going to go solid, and we're going to be selecting our extrude feature from our modeling tab. Having selected extrude, now select each shell. Do not select the circles or the cores for the block. Just select the shells for the full block as well as for our halves. Enter. When asked to specify your extrusion height, the height of a block is 200, but since I am going down, I'm going to be typing negative 200 and give enter. Notice that our blocks have been extruded downwards, leaving our circles on top. That is particularly important because let me switch to shaded with edges, thereby showing us what has been created thus far. But we realize that the blocks, the shape of the holes are there, but they are not punched through. To do that, we're going to be using what is known as our press pull. So select press pull, hover in that area until it is highlighted. Click and push that piece right through the object. You will realize that a hole has been formed. And we do likewise for all cores. Highlight, click, and push through. So what I'm actually doing is to press the circles or the shape of those holes through the block. So select that one again and push it out. By virtue of us press pulling, what you're going to be noticing has happened is that it has left the shapes of what was pressed through. So what we have to do is to select those shapes and delete them. No need to have them hanging around. We're finished with oh, I selected the wrong thing here. Sorry about that. So let me select polyline. That's what I wish to remove. Polyline. That's what I wish to remove. Let's go for this one. Where is it? Polyline. It's what we wish to remove. And polyline. It's which we wish to. Now let's give delete and have those gone. Now my block is now basically complete, or the feature of my block is now complete. Let's give orbit so we can realize has been constructed. All right, and for clarity's sake, it is always recommended that we keep working in a 2D wireframe mode. So I'm going to be changing that back to wireframe. Some persons will say it's a little bit confusing, but just switch back and forth, you know, to ease the confusion. Now, what are we going to be modeling here? We're going to be modeling 5.5 blocks. Yes, 5.5 blocks across, and we're going to be going, well, you're going to be going with that 4 rows high. So let's go with that. So what am I saying? Let us move our complete block basically into a clear space so we can start. As a matter of fact, let's not move. Let's copy. So we keep our original. So let me copy a block and move it into a clear area where I'm now going to be constructing or laying my block work. So here goes. Let us copy this block. Let us hold it at this end. Now you have to be aware that if you hold it at this end, we're going to be copying it and pasting it at this end, thereby laying 5 blocks in a line. 1, 2, 3, 4, and my 5th and final block has been laid. I, however, need a half at that end, and I'm going to be using this half based on the end feature of that block. So I go copy, and allow me to copy this block, holding it at this edge, because that is the edge that must be pasted at this edge. Now I have my 5.5 blocks. Yes? Here's what I want us to do now from this point. Let us put our stiffeners in this wall. One of the things you will notice, and you have to develop the ability to just switch from screen to screen. Because here's the thing, I need to move our L stiffener to the end of this wall, right? So what I'm going to be doing, it is easier if we select on our 2D side. So I'm going to be selecting that stiffener. By selecting on the 2D side, I ensure that I got everything selected. Now let's go over to my 3D side. Let's give enter. Because we're going to be holding our stiffener at this point here. Because that point must be placed at this corner of our wall. If again you look at your 2D layout, we would now realize that our stiffener has now been placed in. We can see that on our 3D side. We can see that on the 2D side as well, that our stiffener is nicely positioned in our wall. Let us continue. Now at this other end, we're going to be placing our T stiffener. So let us go and let us move our stiffener, selecting everything on this side, ensuring that everything has been selected. Let's go over here and find it, enter. We're going to move it by holding it at this point and moving that point and placing it here. Now our stiffener is now placed in our wall. Let us copy these 5.5 blocks. So let us go ahead and copy these 5.5 blocks. Again, hold it on the 3D side and copy those 5 to the other end of this stiffener here. Escape. Let us look at our 2D side to realize that our wall is actually being formed. Our wall is actually being formed. End that wall with your other stiffener detail. So let us move everything for our stiffener. Again, let's go on the 3D side. Hold it at this point here, because that point is going here. Now we have all our walls for that wall, all our blocks, sorry, for that stretch of wall. Again, we can take our view in a 3D friendly form, like our shaded with edges. So we can realize that all we have done thus far is to have laid our first course of blocks. Yes. Before we go further, however, allow us to go and to complete our stiffener details. I'm just going to be switching back to wireframe, allowing the system to work a little freer. All right. Now, I'm also going to be zooming on this stiffener detail so we can appreciate what is happening to our L stiffener on our 2D side. We're going to give thickness or some 3D features to our links. Select solid, and from your modeling tab, we're going to be using what is known as sweep. Select sweep, and we're going to be selecting this object, enter. When asked by AutoCAD to select the sweep path, what we want to be doing is to sweep this shape onto this path. What you have done is to have converted that line into being something which is circular or cylindrical, so to speak. We're going to go sweep, select this circle, enter, and click this path. Our circle have been swept onto our path. We're going to do likewise for each stiffener. So we're going to sweep this circle, enter, onto this path. And again, if we go and take a look at our eye stiffener, I'll show it in shortly. Likewise, this circle is to be swept onto this path. Alright, so go sweep, select your circle, enter, and then select the path. It has been swept. One final stiffener remains, and it's our eye stiffener. Again, let's go over there. We're going to say sweep. We're going to sweep this circle onto this path. But here is the thing. If we were to take a closer look at, for example, our T and our L stirrups or links, here's what you're going to be noticing. You're going to be noticing that those stirrups pretty much run through each other. What is now necessary is now for us to lift a stirrup, whether perhaps this one or this one, whichever one we wish to lift, such that one will sit on top of the other. So I'm going to go move, and I'm going to be moving this one. Likewise, I'm going to be moving this one. Enter, and move those perpendicular. Make sure that your ortho is on, so that the steel bar move directly up 10 millimeters. Why 10? Because 10 millimeter happens to be the size of our stirrup. Now, if we look at it now, we would now realize that they are no longer penetrating each other, but that one is now sitting on top of the other. All right, and so we are making some progress. Again, I'm going to be switching back to wireframe, sort of to have the system work a little freer. But here is the thing. If there is an L here, then I'm going to be wanting at least 3 rows of blocks laid in that direction. So let us rotate, or again, let us copy. It's always good to keep an original copy. So allow me to rotate. So I'm going to go rotate. I'm going to select a block to rotate, enter. Doesn't matter where you hold it, perhaps in the middle, and just push upwards. Notice that block has been rotated. Let me demonstrate rotate once more. Select rotate. Select the object you wish to rotate, enter. Click somewhere, perhaps in the middle of the object, and push upwards. But ensure that ortho is on. Otherwise, you might rotate and it's not perfectly straight. Let us go copy. Let us copy this block. Enter. I'm going to hold it at this edge such that I can put that edge at none other than this edge. I'm also going to be laying another block at the end of that and another block at the end of that. So we have 3 blocks in that row. Cool. And you notice that from 3D as well as from 2D. Let us now put 3 more blocks on our T stiffener. So let us go copy. Let us select the block, and I'm going to be holding it at the same corner here and try to find that corner, which I think is somewhere in here. Might be a little bit hard for you to find, but zoom in closely and find that corner of your stiffener. Paste another one perhaps here and another, so we have some amount of uniformity. Now, all we now need are wall bars, because notice we are actually laying our wall, but we don't even have any wall bars over which to be laying our blocks. Now we're going to be using wall bars of diameter 13, and our first wall bar goes in our first block core. So circle, and the diameter for that circle is gonna be 13, so give 13, enter, and we have our first wall bar. But on observation, I am noticing on my 3D side that my circle is not at ground zero. I'm just gonna go move, and I'm gonna click anywhere on screen, point down, and type the thickness of the block or the height of the block, which was 200, thereby moving my circle. If it wasn't in your case already at the base, move it to the base. Now here's the thing, wall bars are placed 400 millimeters apart. So all I'm going to be doing is to copy this wall bar, enter, select on screen, and to my next wall bar is going to be 400, enter. Since I'm copying from my first bar, my next bar is going to be 800, my next bar is going to be 1200, my next bar is going to be at 1600 away, and my final bar is going to be 2000 away. Now every block has now received a steel bar, and that's how it is actually done. Let me copy, since we have a similar wall on the other side, allow us to just copy out these bars. We're almost finished here. Let us copy out these bars, enter, and by observation, let us move these bars such that all other blocks actually get a steel bar. Let's escape. Since we have also placed side walls, let us put wall bars in those as well. So circle, diameter 13, enter. First wall bar along that side. Which bar is this? Oh, allow to now copy our bars 400 apart. So the next one is going to be 400, then we're going to be 800, then we're going to be 1200, and I'm not certain if there's, well, we're not even going to have that 1200 one. It has fallen outside. Let's remove that. Let us now copy just these 3 bars, and you can even move them by sight and place them in that. Yes. Now let us zoom our 3D side. So we are now able to observe when our steel bars are placed in. To give height to our steel bars, let us go solid and extrude them. The only drawback about this is that we now have many bars to select, because we now have to select all circles. 1, 2, and I am basically going to be extruding them. So I have selected, let's go again. So we go extrude, and we select all our steel bars that are expected to go vertically. It's quite a lot of them. So let me go ahead and speed that up. But in your case, just select carefully. There are cases where we could even be selecting right across, ensuring that we get many circles at the same time. But be careful that we don't click on the wrong object. Alright, all I want to be copying. So if you have to do it meticulously by clicking on them individually like that, not a problem. Alright, but we could also use our selection box and get them much quicker. I think I have them all. Oh no. Let's work going back this way. And finally this way. Alright. I think I have them all. Then I give enter. Notice the steel bars on the 3D side gets high. Let us give height of about 5 feet. So type 1500, enter. And we would have shortened our steel bars to 5 feet. Finally, along our stiffeners, our steel bars are going to be distributed at approximately 10 inches in a vertical way. Let us go ahead and copy both stirrups for our L, both stirrups for our T, and our single stirrup for our I. Enter. Click on screen, and like I said, with your ortho on, we're going to be distributing these stirrups 250 millimeters apart. So let's go first, 250, enter, a copy is made. Next, 500, enter, another copy, 750. So I'm going up by increments of 250, and my final one is going to be at 2,500. What is happening here? If we were now to take a closer look at what we have done, and let us look in shaded with edges, what is now realized is that our stiffeners are now complete. It's just for concrete to be poured. What I would advocate you do before you represent your concrete for your stiffeners though, is to continue with the laying of blocks. But one has to be careful, because blocks are not laid with straight joints. The joints has to be alternate. For example, this first row started with a complete block. It means my other row is going to be starting with a half block. And that's why we needed half blocks. So I'm going to copy in this block, and I'm going to be pasting it at that point. I have laid my first half block. Other blocks are now going to be laid as complete blocks. It's just for the spaces that cannot take complete blocks that we are basically going to be putting our half blocks. So in a similar manner, we can go right ahead and copy in our blocks. I'm going to be switching to hidden view. My colors might have messed things up a little bit working in hidden view, but with yours on a black screen, you might find it a lot easier. With some of those edges hidden, it is easier to know exactly where you are going to be pasting your next block. A thing that could have been done is to copy a number of blocks. Or you could even, somebody said, why don't we just copy an entire row of block? And my response is, when I'm doing this activity, I sort of like to have the effect as though I am actually laying blocks, you know? And so that's the feel I am getting. It's as though I am actually constructing my. And to explain what I'm saying, our third row would now have to start with a complete block, and it is done like that alternately. All right, so we could already lay another block and then another block going down the line, and it's going to end with a half. The next row is going to start with a half, and so on and so forth. So I hope you would have gotten that concept. In the interest of time, however, and I want to have a wall completed with at least 4 rows of block, so I'm going to be copying the entire first row, because my third row and my first row are going to be identical. So all I have to do is to copy this point and I'm going to be copying it up to this point. Now I have that row of blocks. So I have 3 rows of blocks on that face already laid. Like I'm saying, you may choose to lay your blocks individually, or you might choose to just install them as complete rows. I'm going to just, like I said, in the interest of time, I'm just going to go ahead and copy all the blocks I am going to be needing to complete my other half of this wall. So allow me a second and let me copy these blocks. Oops, I don't want that steel. Let's release the steel so I can select this block. Come on, give me that block. I have copied that one. Release this one, don't need it. Then I'm going to be copying those, holding it at this point here. Very important that you hold it at the correct spot. So I'm holding it at that point, and then I am going to paste it on the other sets we have over here. Now my front wall is basically complete. The only thing that is left is for the stiffeners to be erected or to be cast. Let's also complete our 2-side walls to have things in a uniform way. To do that though, you're going to be realizing that we need half blocks in the other position. So let us copy these blocks and also allow us to rotate them. So let me go and rotate them because we're going to be needing them in the other direction. Now notice that this block, this row, started with a full block. If you notice, then there is no way my other row could have started with a full block. So let us now copy a half block as I'm going to be needing. Enter, and I'm going to start it at this point because that point must be placed at this corner right here. And so again, I have my first half block. I'm now going to be copying full blocks, and I'm going to be needing 2.5 blocks more. So let me take 2 blocks, for example this one and this one. I can hold it at this point, and I'm going to be putting it at this point. What I need up here, a half block, but it's the other half this time. So allow me now to copy, and again I'm trying to complete the activity because I want for us to at least put some concrete work in there. So allow me now to quickly drop this block at that point. I'm also going to be copying my first row because my first and third row are the same. Alternate rows will always be the same. Now I can copy it here because that point goes here. Now I have 3 rows of blocks there as well. I'm gonna just copy those entire 2 rows for use on my middle wall. Have I missed any block? There is one here. I'm gonna enter. Let me see over there where I'm gonna hold it. If I hold it here, all I have to do is now to find that matching point over here, which is a little bit hard. It's behind that steel. Let's spin that steel out of the way and drop it there. What we now notice is that I have completed 3 rows of blocks everywhere. All that is left is our stiffeners to be cast. I'm going to be casting these stiffeners to the same height or slightly less than the block work. To do that, we're going to be using our extrude command. So let us go extrude. We're not going to be extruding to any particular height, so just select the objects we wish to extrude, like that stiffener, perhaps this stiffener, and our final stiffener is going to be this one. Enter. And what you're going to notice is that my columns, the casting process has basically started. Just extrude your stiffeners to a height perhaps slightly lower than the wall itself. What you would have noticed is that our walls, our stiffeners, have also been cast. I happen to be seeing everything here pretty much in one color, and that's how our building is anyhow. But for more clarity, you might see it clearer if you were to be working using different colors, perhaps different colors for your blocks, different colors for your stiffeners, and so on and so forth. And even if you were to lay other rows of blocks, all you would have to be doing is just to select the stiffener and gradually increase the height of your stiffeners, perhaps to match the heights of your walls. Quite interesting. And so that is how we would have drawn the profile of the block. We have drawn the profile of our stiffeners, and we had pretty much converted those into being realistic modeling of our block and our stiffener. I do hope this video was found useful, because it is the very objects that we have been created in our 2D and 3D lessons that you are expected to transfer that knowledge into whatever aspect you might find necessary. All right, so I implore you to use this tutorial, as it will assist you to produce that block, your stiffeners, and to ultimately model them in a wall. I thank you very much for watching, and I hope you will find some time to practice the techniques demonstrated here. Thanks again, and good day.